Hey y'all, welcome to this review of the new Tightspot Pivot 2.5 Quiver. This is a new design released by Tightspot. It's their first two-piece quiver. The main design points of this quiver is that it's made with carbon fiber weave rods that you'll use to adjust the quiver however you want, and it also bolts directly onto your bow's riser. Alright, well we'll go into some pros of the quiver design. First off, it's really light. Both pieces come at a combined weight of 9 ounces, just super light. The carbon fiber weave that's used in the quiver really helps with dampening shot vibration. I really noticed the dampening of the shot vibration when I put this quiver on compared to my previous quiver, which was this fused quiver right here. This quiver is very basic and is pretty good for what it is. But after I put on the Tightspot quiver, I did notice a reduced in post-shot vibration. The lower piece of the quiver also has an adjustable arrow gripper. So depending on what arrow you're using, if you're using micro diameter or standard shafts, you can tune the gripper to perfectly hold your arrows. And the biggest pro of all is the adjustability with this quiver. You can get it as tight and close to your bow riser as possible. I have, this thing is barely hovering above the bow limbs, but it's really nice. It really helps to keep the bow really compact. And then you can adjust and rotate the quiver to get your arrows to fit exactly how you want them to be. All right, going into some cons, I don't really have very many cons for this quiver, but the first one would be the price. This quiver is pretty expensive. If you go on Tightspot's website, they're selling this for about $230. If you go on Lancaster or Go Hunt, they're selling it for about $200. I was lucky enough to get mine for a deal. Got mine for a little bit under $200, so save some money there. And while this quiver is a really good design, it is a bit pricey, so just be aware of that. Two other cons that I have with this quiver is that it impacts my bow setup. And what I mean by that is I have a Hamskea limb-driven rest, and the way I have my quiver set up, the limb-driven rest cable actually conflicts with the bottom half of the quiver. So as I'm drawing back, the cable is sliding up and down against the quiver. This isn't ideal. It may lead to failure in the future if the cable slides up against the quiver too much. It may end up snapping in the future. I'm not sure yet, but it is something to be aware of. Also, depending on how you set up your quiver, you might have conflicts with arrows going into the quiver not fitting because it's impacting your rest. In my case, the way I have my quiver set up, I cannot use one of the positions in the quiver because the Hamskea rest is impacting my arrow. So that's one position out of my quiver that I'm no longer able to use. For me, it's not a big deal. With the way I currently have my quiver set up, I don't have access to my 5th arrow, but that's all right. 4 arrows in my quiver is fine for me. It may not be for you. Just be aware that that conflict exists. All right, that's all I have for cons. Now I'll give you a quick guide on how to install this quiver. Alright, so I'm going to show you all how to install the quiver onto your bow. All you're going to need is some Allen wrenches. Next, you'll need this rod right here that'll fit inside of the adapter. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a flat spot on this rod right here, and you're going to want to make sure the flat spot lines up vertically with your bow. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be more or less vertical with your bow. Then what you want to do is grab this bolt right here, and on the other side of your riser, you're going to thread this bolt into the adapter. So just thread the bolt through, rotate clockwise to tighten it down, get it nice and snug. You're gonna really want to get this pretty tight. If you don't, when you go to screw on the actual quiver and go to adjust it, you may find that the rod rotates. This bottom rod rotates if it's not screwed in tightly enough. Okay, so once you got the guide rod installed onto the riser, you're gonna take your quiver and slide the collar over the guide rod, like so. Once you have it put on, this is where you'll do your first adjustment. So once you got the quiver to be as close or as far away from the riser as you want, then all you got to do is tighten down this collar. Again, you're gonna wanna hand tighten this pretty tight just to make sure that this quiver doesn't move around. So lastly, you'll wanna adjust how the quiver sits on your bow by lengthening and rotating these rods. To adjust it, you'll need the 9/16 and the 3/32 Allen wrenches to loosen or tighten these 6 screws. So once you have all the screws loosened, you can pivot and move the quiver around however you like. And then once you find a position that you want to leave it in, just tighten the bolts back down. So once you have it all tightened down, you're done. The nice thing about this design is if you ever want to take off your quiver, you don't have to worry about messing up the orientation that you have it in. All you need to do is unscrew this collar and slide the quiver off. And then when you want to put it back on, slip the quiver back on, tighten down the collar, and you're back to where you want to be. All right, so in conclusion, I really like this quiver. I like all the adjustability that you can do with it. I love how close I can get the quiver to the riser, how much it dissipates vibration. But there are some conflicts that I have with my hamski rest. Although that's not really due to the quiver itself, that's kind of a combination of a bunch of conflicts with the bow, the rest, and the quiver. Also, while the quiver is a little bit pricey, I still think it's a good value. And I think for those of you who are looking into getting it, you should go for it. So my final rating on the quiver, I would give it an 8 out of 10. It's really good. There are just some issues with it when it comes to price. But overall, really good. I would recommend this to anyone. All right, that's it for the review. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope y'all learned something. If y'all did, I'd appreciate it if you like and share the video, as well as subscribing to my channel. If you're interested, you can also check out my Instagram, which is CZDR_Michael. I'll also leave a link of my Instagram in the description below. Thank you again for watching. I'll see y'all in the next video.